Brought to you by Lister Pros TV, streaming from Tempe, Arizona. And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, Jordan Nielsen here, host of Real Estate Pros on Lister Pros TV, and today we have a very special guest in studio. We have James Judge of Home Smart.
Yes, indeed.
Welcome to Real Estate Pros. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, so we were chatting a little bit before we started the show, but I'll let you have a couple minutes to introduce yourself, talk about your background and what interested you in real estate and how you got in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So real estate was never really part of my plan. I went to school for interior architecture and then graduated in a time when that was a frivolous degree that nobody wanted to hire me for. And so I started flipping houses because it was a great way to do design and kind of cater that into real estate. And I saw the profitable aspects of that. So from flipping, I kind of went into real estate was the next step of really being able to control my own listings and not only design them to sell, but be able to manage that and whatnot, and really highlight the best of both. So design first, real estate second, but they go hand in hand, and it's a nice marriage for me.
Absolutely. So design, that's something that we definitely appreciate here at Lister Pros. You know, when we take photos, we've taken photos of all kinds of properties, but there are some that you get to and you're like, man, that looks amazing. And usually because there's some designer or some stager that went in prior.
Yeah. I mean,
and made it look nice.
And I think a key thing, so something I always focus on is trying to make every house look like a home. So when a buyer walks in, they're not walking into a house that's vacant or that looks flipped. It looks like they're walking into a magazine. And that's what we always need Lister Pros to capture, so that way when they're looking online, the photos, are rock star. They look like they're magazine worthy. So and that's what I try to achieve as a realtor and as a designer. So I design every house so that it looks magazine worthy. So when they walk in, they feel like they're walking into something that they didn't realize they could have, And lights are on, furniture is everywhere. I stage every single room in the house. So, a lot of times staging stops at like the main rooms, but I do bedrooms, I do the patios, the bathrooms, you name it. I will stage that house from top to bottom so it looks lived in. So when people go through it, they feel like they're walking through a home because I think it helps them imagine their own life there. They could have Thanksgiving in that dining room and lounge in the backyard by the pool on those Chase lounges, and it caters to really creating that sense of the lifestyle they're buying.
Right. And that's a skill not everybody has. Obviously, you went to school for interior architecture. What are some tips that you could give to real estate agents or homeowners around design? What are some of the important things? Like, obviously, a lot of it has to do with how people feel when they walk into the house.
Yeah. I mean, tips, curtains. People don't give enough credit to curtains. But if you add, even if you're trying to sell a vacant house, if you add curtains, you can buy the cheap hardware and curtains from IKEA, but it softens the space. It adds color. It also hides sometimes, if there was a bad window install. And so suddenly it makes the space also not so echoey. And this is, maybe $125, and you can put curtains throughout an entire house. So that's a key tip for realtors to consider and or home sellers. You also, you never hang curtains actually at the window height. You always want to go higher, as high as you can. So buy the 95-inch curtains, go as tall as you can. And the curtains are not to actually cover the window. This is a big misconception. Everyone thinks that they're supposed to, block the light. No, you want to hang them 18 inches past. So that way it's actually framing out the window, creating height, and adding color to a space. So there's one, that's curtains. And basic staging, if you have an island in that house, add some bar stools because people need a place to sit when they're like, wow, this is the perfect home for us. So same thing with patio furniture. Arizona is all about outdoor living. So if you can add a table and some chairs so that way they can take in the backyard, the view, it's one easy step to do in terms of creating a place for people to kind of sit and register and take in the home.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Those are some quick, solid tips, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people hold back. They're like, they'll give them these, but those are pretty simple tips. But I can see how the way you explain it, how it really impacts.
Yeah, absolutely.
A home and
lighting is key too. This is something that a reason I became a realtor was because I was never happy with a lot of real estate situations previously. Realtors do a great job with selling real estate, but I think a lot of times it's more than that. It's about home presentation. So I go to every house, every listing of mine before every showing and turn all the lights on. So when people walk in, the house feels welcoming. So, you've got every lamp, light fixture, fan, everything's on. So you're walking into a photogenic and, welcoming home. So I think that's key, and it takes a lot of extra work to do that, but that's also what people are buying. When they buy my listings, they're buying the dream of that lifestyle, of that having that perfectly designed and cohesive house.
Man, and we were talking prior to the interview starting that how you don't take every single listing, right?
Correct. So I'm very selective. This is kind of my niche, I guess. So I will not take your listing unless you let me do, have design control of the house. So a lot of times people, they get excited when I talk about design and whatnot, but they're a little apprehensive regarding their own home. I just won't take the listing because I don't want to have an ugly listing. And, I never mean any offense by that, but a lot of times it's one thing when it's your own home, but it's business when it comes down to selling, And if you're selling a house, a lot of times it's those simple changes that are important. So every client has to allow me to come in and make that happen, whether it's basic staging, curtains, patio furniture, bar stools, or if it's a bigger, redesign, like, hey, you know what? We need to update your countertops. Your appliances are really dated. If you did X, Y, and Z, the home would present better. And usually people are really receptive to that because at the end of the day, they want to sell their house quick and for top dollar. And I can offer them that. So if they listen to me and we have a partnership with that, it usually goes really smooth. And at the end of the day, we've got a beautiful listing that sells quick for top dollar, hopefully.
Yeah, but I from talking to you, it's going that extra step. Because it was
Yes.
subtle, but you said it. You said you go to the house before every showing and make sure presentation.
Yeah, is everything,
And that's important too, because I've gone into houses where the pictures look good, but then you go into it and it's 85 degrees because they crank the AC all the way up.
Yep.
And they want to save 50 cents, and now you're sweating. You don't even want to be there.
Right, and and that's the key thing. And in Arizona, you want to walk into a house that feels cold. You want to make sure that nobody's used those toilets. That they put the seats down. What happened to the pool in the meantime overnight, with a monsoon, and making sure that things look clean and prepared, and sometimes it's cleaning the pool quickly, before the people arrive. And so I always try to schedule showings so that way I know when they're going to be there, just so I can prep the house. And I think that's important because presentation is everything to me in terms of selling because it's a big factor of design and real estate.
Right. And so what area of the valley do you cover? Do you typically work, or do you do everything?
So I'm dedicated to Central Phoenix.
Okay.
I will do listings outside of Central Phoenix, but Central Phoenix is my focal point. It's where I live, and it's the area of town that I believe in the most. When I first moved to Arizona, I thought that Phoenix was kind of a joke in terms of a city setting. Mm-hmm. But in the last 8 years since I've been here, it's amazing how much it has developed and grown to be kind of a cool city with restaurants, bars, attractions. So now suddenly you have this cool metro area and so many historic districts surround that. And that's neat because those are also homes that are very unique. They have cool character. They can be designed and redesigned a little bit to kind of cater to some cool design features and factors. So I love that because not every home is the same. They're not beige. They're not boxes. And so you've got a lot of character. And I like to cater to that with design and real estate. So that's my focal point. I love the 85003 and 85004 zip codes. So that focuses a lot on the Willow District, Ashland Place, Alvarado, all those historic districts that frame out Central Avenue.
And there are that's a cool area to work in because we've shot several homes. It's cool to go into a house that hasn't really been, it's been updated, but not so much. They'll have an old phone or
Yes.
the Mel Buissons that
the milk doors even, you know?
Yeah. They got a lot of character in that area. So what are some things that people should know about those specific areas in Central Phoenix if they're looking to buy in the Valley?
Well, so if you're buying in Central Phoenix, usually you're looking for a historic property because of based on that's the inventory. Most of the areas in those zip codes are historic neighborhoods. So what do you know? They're up and coming. They're trendy. You know, most of the things are within walking distance right now. So it's a great place to buy because we're seeing values continue to increase in those areas. So you should probably buy now. You know, the homes are old, and they're old for a reason. So you have to be open-minded to charm. And I say charm, but like charm can sometimes be the fact that, you know, those door hinges have 3 layers of paint on them. You know, you're not talking about perfection. Like, if you want a new build, go to the outer areas of Phoenix. You know, you're buying an old home. Old homes have squeaky floors. You know, they have things that are not perfect. Even if they've been remodeled and redone, you know, they're just not perfect. And you need to be on board with that, because if you're not on board with that, you're probably not a Central Phoenix historic home buyer. Key thing, though, you know, a lot of these homes date back to the 20s and 30s. So 40s, whatnot. So if you're buying that, you want to make sure that a lot of that, the guts of the house have been updated. Ideally without losing its charm. You know, you want to make sure that the plumbing, the electrical, all those things have been ideally redone and are not original. Because although we love those original doors and doorknobs and all those details, you don't want the original mechanics. So key thing to consider.
That is important, and I guess that could end up being costly if you don't know too much. Maybe you buy a house, but the electrical's super old, you know. Or
yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's, of course, home inspections help with that and whatnot. And you know, home inspection on a historic property is never good. Doesn't matter how nicely redone the home is; they're just not to code. They're not current. But that's part of the understanding, and understanding what is an expensive actual problem versus what was just how it was done back in the 20s or 30s, and being at peace with that.
So if somebody in that area or surrounding areas is interested in hiring you to be their real estate agent, how do people get a hold of you?
So first of all, you can totally follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is @flippingdiaries. So that's a good way to kind of check out a lot of my before and afters for projects, my personal projects, but also all my clients' homes. So you can actually see kind of how we transform personal listings. So taking from what they started with, and then the after, whether that was paint, staging, whatnot. So it's a nice way to see a transformation of somebody's actual home. A lot of times when you look at it, you don't realize that it's actually a home versus a project. But so check me out @flippingdiaries. Phone number wise, my best way to reach me is 480-389-6441, or you can check me out at realestatejudge.com.
Awesome. Thanks, James, for joining us here on Real Estate Pros. Check him out on Instagram, Flipping Diaries, right?
Diaries, yep, Flipping Diaries.
All one word,
all
no
one
underscore.
Word.
It's all together, Flipping Diaries. Awesome. Thanks, James.
Absolutely. Thank
and
you.
We will see you guys on the next episode.